Friends, welcome back. Today I am coming to you from a place I've never shown you before. This is my nursery. Yes, I have a nursery at home. Here's the scoop. When I am heavy duty in container season, I like to stock my personal nursery so I can literally create anything. So what I thought might be kind of fun, since I have all this fresh, gorgeous product, is I'm going to take one container and we are going to dress her up 5 different ways. So I'm going to do a couple sun and I'm going to do a couple shade, but I want to walk you through the process that I take with every single container. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll be like, okay, I've got the cadence, I got the rhythm. I can do this on my own. And if you haven't watched Container Design 101, I will link it below because that has a lot of the elements that I'm going to be talking about today. All right, are you ready? So first things first, when I build a container, I like to think about my centerpiece, okay? So I want to show you over here a couple of different centerpieces that I've got going on. But essentially, when you think of a centerpiece, you want to think of shape, okay? So maybe you're thinking we want to do something rounded. Maybe you want something with some like beautiful like triangle height, okay? Maybe you want to do something that's like spiky and interesting. So let's start with, let's actually start with the most classic of shapes, which is that triangle shape, right? And so I feel like we're back to container geometry. All right, my friends, this is a selection that you saw me use recently at the State Hotel. This is called a Cami-Cypress, and the variety is called Fern Spray Gold. Now, this is that triangle shape that we have been talking about. There's all sorts of different evergreens that you can substitute that will mimic that triangle shape. Now, when you're placing it in a container, there's a couple things to take into consideration. First of all, if my container was up against a wall, I would center it center back. Now, if this is a square container, what's something really fun that you can do? Actually, even if it isn't a square container, if you have like an oval shape or something, you can also offset it. Yes, this may seem crazy, but you can offset it. The other thing, if this is a container that will be seen, I would say 360, you're probably going to find me centering my centerpiece. So again, lots of different options. So I think for this one, I think I'm going to center it back. All right, here we go. Once we've established what our centerpiece is going to be, we then move on to our mid-story. So if I were to come in here with a centerpiece, and then I pop down here a bunch of, say, violas. So this is cute. It's adorable. However, you don't have anything that is relating these two plants to each other. And that is where our mid-story comes in. Our mid-story is going to bridge our height. Because if I look at this from a profile, and let me set that up so you can too. If you're looking at this from a profile, it comes straight down and then over. That's not what we want. We actually want to decrease in elevation ever so slightly, so it's a little bit more peaceful on the eye. So let me give you some options in terms of mid layers that I would use. And mid layers are also really fun because that is where we start playing with texture. That is where we really want to vary it up. For the fall and winter landscape, I have some really, really classic mid layers that I enjoy playing with. Of course, if you're doing fall specifically and you know you're going to rip it out, kales and cabbages, they're just always a good one, right? So this is fabulous. It is going to blow out as soon as the temperature's warm, so it's going to send out a flower stalk, which isn't exactly great if you're trying to get this to last all the way through the winter. But this is a lovely addition that you've actually seen me use and love it a lot. If I want this container to last all the way through to spring, I'm going to play with a few other options, and let me show you what those are. These two are some of my favorite mid-layer options for the fall and winter months. Ascot Rainbow is a fun option because what you're going to notice is there's a teeny bit of red that's pulling through here. So if you're wanting to play with some warm red tones, this one is very fun. You also get a really awesome color echo coming through that stem. Miner's Merlot is one that I draw upon when I have some really dark, moody arrangements. This one is absolutely stunning. Depending on which way I want to head, I can use either one of these. They're both really lovely, lovely options. I think I might, we're going to see what I decide to play with. I think for the time being, what I might do is I might actually just leave this here so we can start building some texture and you can see where I'm headed. So the next thing I want to talk about when we're doing a mid-story is something with a broad leaf, so a big round leaf. I'm playing with a couple of things this season. I'm actually playing with Bergania. This is a very beautiful specimen. It's really unexpected. This is Magic Giant. As the temps dip, and you can see it just starting right here, I'm going to bring it in close. So as winter moves in and the temps become colder, do you see this beautiful dusting of kind of this plum color across the ridge of the leaf? This will move all the way down the leaf and it is beautiful in the winter. For this container, this actually could be kind of like tonal and understated. There's something I'm really liking about this, but I want to show you some more vibrant options because I think it's going to come in better on the screen. So next, when we are talking about heucheras have a large range. And so some of them are going to be more sun tolerant and some will not handle sun very well. So those you're going to reserve for a shade container. For this one, since I'm planning it for sun, I am going to grab Heuchera Obsidian. This one just anchors a beautiful kind of like dark moment breaking up this sea of green. So this is a very fun option to bring in. Now, moving over here to kind of your left side, we have some options, okay? One thing to talk about, we've gone with like more of a thin, kind of like a thin leaf for a mid-story. We've gotten for a broad leaf for a mid-story. Now I feel like we need to bring in something strappy. We need to bring in texture. And so this is where I lean heavily into grasses. And this is also where we're going to start building in some choices that you're going to see. Oh, and by the way, depending on the size of your container, you may go with something that's a quart size, or this one doesn't like that much sun, but you can see it for a size reference. Check that out. So if you want a texture-driven container and you don't want a lot of pansies or violas, grab a gallon because look at this just beautiful fullness. Also, look how it relates to the back of this euphorbia. Very, very good. Okay, so let's go back to our obsidian and now we're going to play in the texture realm of grasses. I have a bunch of different grasses here. And these are all really fun ones. They all do pretty well in full sun. Alrighty, so with our grasses, we have a lot of different options. I am just picking out 4 that I commonly use. We have Carrick's Feather Falls. This one is very fun and blousy. We have Carrick's Testacea. This is orange sedge. This is going to be more upright. We have Festuca Beyond Blue. She is like little and cute and just cute as button. And then last but not least, I have a Chorus Ogon. This shape is a little bit different. She actually likes to grow in a fan shape. So it's really fun kind of poking out the side of a container. So for this one, I'm actually going to go with my Carrick's Feather Falls. I like that we have a variegated leaf balancing the variegation over here. And I like that these tendrils are going to kind of cascade down this thick rim of this stump planter that we have. Okay, so here we are. We've got some just real good basics. I actually like to know who my client is because I do have some clients that prefer a texture-only planter. And this is where we start to really have fun. I'm going to show you some examples. In this texture planter, I could actually come in here with a Senecio to break up and offer a lot of fullness right here, okay? I could also take this Senecio and pop a little bit of brightness over here. That's another good option. And do you see how this is helping break up the eye a little bit? Another option if I'm leaning into texture is playing with Kalunas. Now, this is the heather family. There's kind of 2 branches of heathers. There's the Kaluna and the Erica. I prefer Kaluna, and this is typically a winter bud bloomer. This one is called Amethyst. And this one I use more for the texture. This one is called Zeta. So what's great about something like this is I probably wouldn't use the Zeta because do you see how closely it matches my fern spray in the middle? This is where I would lean more into this beautiful little guy. And what's really fun is I don't like this up against the fern spray. I would take it down here. And do you see what I'm doing where I'm contrasting the foliage really heavily? It's like chartreuse, plum, and then this really deep obsidian. I might also, actually, you know what? I prefer it over there. I'm going to tell you why. This is almost too thinly bladed, and because my Kaluna has such small leaves, it needs something larger to break it up. So I would prefer it over here. Now the next thing that we can do is we can play even further with texture on this side. And I have a couple different ways I would do that. You could bring in something really spidery and interesting. This is a euonymus. This one is Emerald Gaiety. And what I love about this is it has a really beautiful spreading habit. It's evergreen, and it also gets a little kiss of pink as the temperatures cool. So it echoes what I've got going on here. So far, I feel like I just want to do a texture planter for you guys. I want to just do all texture amazingness. Okay, so here we are. This, I think, is about as full as I would pack it. If I wanted to do anything else, I might do a bit of a trailer out the front, but I almost feel like this is enough because you get a lot of trailing right here and a lot of trailing right here. So this is going to be option number one, full texture, full sun. Absolutely love it. Friends, we are entering bonus tip territory. If you have a little extra room in your container and you just feel like it's missing a little something, chances are it's probably missing a texture piece. So I've got two here. These are two short little textures. This one is Selaginella aurea. This is a golden spike moss. This is a Juga burgundy glow. Hello. Look at that color in the leaf. Okay, so you could come down here and shoot it with a little bit of chartreuse. I love this. However, I was looking over here at this obsidian and that Kaluna, and I feel like bringing in a little texture pop of purple is just, it's adorable. I love it. And this is a way that you can build in color without using an outright floral element. So again, keeping with our theme of texture on texture, super just warm and inviting. Okay, so friends, I want to give you one other option. In case you want more floral than texture, we're going to take out this euonymus. You could even use this in the back here for like a little extra fluff coming out. However, look at this. This is a pansy called Delta Pro Neon Violet. I absolutely love it. And check this out. Boom. Just a little shot of that depth there. That is so pretty. Of course, you could totally go for broke. You could add another one here. You could add another one here. World's your oyster. But that is how I would transition this container from pure texture to giant pops of floral. All right, my loves. This time, we're going to go shade. We're going to alternate sun, shade, sun, shade, sun. Let's do that. This next selection is a Fatsia called Spider's Web. It has this beautiful white webbing that appears on the leaves. Each leaf is a little bit different. Really, really great selection. All right, so we have our foundation piece set in motion. The next thing I want to do is I want to start building my color and my texture with the mid-story. So we're going to go through this a little bit quicker, and I'm going to show you my selections because I think what I want to do is I want to do a much more simple triangle shape because I have so much volume here. So first things first, grasses. What's really fun is this Acorus. Now I want you to notice what I'm doing here. If I were to come in with this Feather Falls, do you see how it's very pretty? I love it a lot, but it's a mounded shape with a mounded shape, okay? So there's a lot of repetition going on here. If I take this away and we look at the chorus here, this blade is a little bit more straight. It's a little bit more fan-shaped. So it can almost like come out from the Fatsia, and it's building a really interesting texture story. Okay, so I'm going to do this here. Also, what's fun is it brings in a lot of brightness, which is another really great quality. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a heuchera. I'm going with a quart size because, again, we want our ratio to be set up. This has a lot of volume. If I were to bring in a gallon size heuchera, they are like fighting tooth and nail for center of attention, and I don't want that. So I'm going to go with something a little bit more petite. Now I love the idea of a trailer out the front here, and you can see I've got a nice little triangle set up here, and now I need a trailing moment. I'm going to show you two different things and the reasoning behind them. Here's the first one. This is beautiful. It's lovely. This is a variegated ivy. This is White Wonder. I like it. It's got that crispness to the edge of the leaf, but I almost feel like it's too samey. So I'm going to show you a different choice. We have this little cutie. This, I think, might actually be the winner. This is an ivy called Duck Feet, and it has the sweetest little duck-shaped leaves to the ivy, and it doesn't have any variegation, which might be a nice thing for the eye to rest on as we build out the rest of this container. Okay, I'm going to leave this in here for the time being because next we're going to play with color, and I want you to watch me layer this in. So with all of these colors, I can actually go a bunch of different ways. I could go very muted, bring out a lot of that white. I could pop it with some bright yellow. That might be interesting. I could also go a little dark and moody. Isn't that interesting? That brings in a lot of the plum shape here. I could even pop it with some bright yellow back here. But I don't know that I like that. Okay, let me play with another choice here. We also have this. Now this is interesting because it still has a similar leaf coloring. I'm not sure that's it either. This is actually very soft and sweet. This little creaminess here, this might be my answer. You know what, we're gonna go back to square one because I think this is actually, there's something really lovely about this. And like I was saying, you do have some options. So we could do this straight all across the board. So what I mean is we are going to go with just one viola and repeat it all the way around. That's very tonal. I'm always right. It's very demure. It's very subtle. However, we can also build in a second one. But what I think I like more is I think I like the idea that we would bring in some yellow brightness in the back to build some depth and dimension. This is a viola called Penny Clear Yellow, and what you're going to notice is it actually has a much bigger leaf than my other viola. I'll show you what I mean. So here is our side by side, and typically I love to pair a viola and a pansy. However, because of the size difference, using two violas together in this instance totally works. So I think what I might do, and by the way, when you're building this out, you have a couple different options. You can put some yellow in the back here. That's really fun. Scoot your heuchera more forward, and then this will provide a lot of fullness here. Or you can do what I like to call a hopscotch. So you have variegated viola straight, variegated, and then over here, I might flip-flop these. So I have the straight yellow, and then a little bit of this variegated in the back. And pansies and violas do very well in lots of different sun conditions. I find them to be just a very, very flexible part of my arsenal. And then to give you this just one little option here, check this out. We're gonna now take out our duck foot because when I pop in this White Wonder, that might actually work now because what I've done, check this out. I've broken up my variegated and my variegated with a singular leaf color. And that, my friends, that is how you break things up so you don't end up with a muddled mess. So here we are, container number 2, fit for the shade. Let's move on to another sun choice. Friends, the next thing we are going to work with is a little bit of a grassy texture. Now, these are not technically grasses. However, it's that grassy texture that a lot of you know and love. I'm going to show you the two options that I have and then the one we're going to play with. And by the way, this is our container number 3, which is designed for the sun. These are two of my favorite centerpiece textures. I have these in smaller pots because they're really fun to stick in little places. You could also stick these in with a larger item because they're a very good support element. So I think for the purposes of this container, I'm going to go with the Sundowner. This is a Formium. It's also called New Zealand Flax, and I love these. I want to do something else a little bit fun. I want to bring in some small shrubs to use in a container because a lot of us think, oh, we have to stick with annuals, but that's not the case. There are some tiny shrubs that are amazing. This is one that I use a lot. I think it's beautiful for fall and winter texture. This is Osmanthus goshiki. Now, I've used this in all sizes, literally from a quart to a gallon to a giant 5-gallon that's been pruned into an orb. That is a lovely centerpiece for a container. So that cutie is gonna go in here. And you can see I've got this really tall, and then we're stepping down to the osmanthus. Okay, next, I had this little baby Nandina kicking around in my stash, and I decided I wanna play with it. This is a Nandina called Gulfstream. When Nandinas are tiny, they're more open, they're more lacy. As they get bigger and more mature, they fill out a lot. But I wanted to play with this, and I thought it might be kind of fun. So there we are. So literally we have a New Zealand flax and 2 shrubs. Okay, next. I think that I'm gonna keep this relatively simple and maybe play with just a trailer or 2 out the front. And I'm gonna go through some choices. Okay, for this next one, for my trailer in this, I'm gonna use the duck foot. It's so sweet. I've got a lot of variegation, a lot of color. And so I think I wanna anchor it with just a nice little soft landing. Okay, now, for all of you floral people, I wanna just kind of get a lot going on here. And I have 2 choices here. This is a combination of this Admire, this Violet Admire, and Pansy Primrose Matrix. It is so lovely. And I really love that we're going with a lot of depth and then a lot of softness. I think it's some nice contrast. So what we can do here is I love that I might put a little bit of the light spot in the middle, and I love how it's pulling down some of that yellow. That is so good. Get a little dark there. Maybe bring another primrose in like that. This little cutie on that side. Then over here, another one of those admires. Over here and over here. This is so floral. It is so lovely. I am pretty enamored with how this is looking. All right, friends, as I just throw things around, we're gonna take out Duckfoot, and I'm gonna pop it with a little brightness here. And what I could actually do, if I really wanted a super full skirt of trailers, I could actually space this out a little bit and just look at that. That is very playful, very fun. And I like that we're just doing 3 trailers of the same. And then look at the shapes I'm creating. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3 trailers, all of them the same, beautiful big cascade, really great impact. I think it's more balanced than just one. I wasn't liking the one. Then we've got a little triangle, a little trio of my little shrubby bits along with my phormium. And then look how I've placed my color. Little triangle here. Over here, these form a triangle with my Nandina. These form a triangle with my osmanthus. We're always wanting to see the shapes that we're creating within the container. So container number 3, built for the sun. I am very excited. This next one is a shade container. I feel like you all know how much I love a shade container by now. We are gonna start off with this centerpiece. This is a Mahonia. It is called Soft Caress. It is one of my favorites of all time. Now, I pre-purchased this for a client who has smaller containers, but this will grow into just a magnificent shrub. And when she's done in your container, pop it in the landscape. It is absolutely beautiful. What's amazing about this Mahonia is it starts off with kind of this bright, softer leaf, and then it ages down to a deeper green. So you've got like almost 2 different tones. And then when it flowers, it sends out a beautiful yellow flower. Bees love it. It's a great addition. Okay, next up, I want to play with some Hellebore because Hellebore is amazing, and I've got 2 to show you. Now, to keep this in proportion, I would actually prefer to use a quart size, but I only have a 1 gallon. This one, let's pull this tag. Oh, this is Hellebore Ice and Roses Rosado. This is beautiful. This is absolutely stunning. The Ice and Roses series is actually bred to be more upright versus the traditional Hellebore, which are a very downward facing flower. So I do tend to like the Ice and Roses for a container just because it's like you can see the bloom more easily. However, any Hellebore is amazing. And just to show you another Hellebore that I love to use, This one is Snow Fever. And this one is a more petite variety. I'm choosing not to use this one because I have a different idea in mind. But Snow Fever is a lovely choice. And I actually really love to pair this with silvery elements because it is just so stunning. And funny enough, I actually like this for the foliage more than I like it for the flower. Okay, so ideally, if I was doing this, I would have a quart size. However, I don't. So we're going with a gallon. The next thing I want to use is actually this cutie. This is a heuchera called Mojito. And just look at this brightness. That is just, it does not get a whole lot happier. And I love how vibrant it is in this container. Another kind of helpful tip when you are working with shade, anytime you can bring in a white flower or a chartreuse shade or anything with like a silver cast to the leaf, you automatically are going to elevate the foliage and the brightness of those deep shade conditions. If you go with everything that's like a mid-tone green, you end up losing plants to the darkness. So don't get lost on the dark side. All right, this is feeling very good to me. Now I want to do a couple of different things. Mosses. I love a moss. I love, love, love a moss. And this, again, you've heard me talk about this. This is our highlighter. I mean, check that out. How much more do you see this Hellebore and appreciate it? Because it is set on this highlighter backdrop. Absolutely amazing. So I think I'm going to bring in a lot of mosses here. The other thing I might want to do is I can play with some white texture here. This is a White Wonder, or I actually kind of like this one better because it has more of the yellow, which is going to complement what I've got going on here. So this, I think I'm going to move it as far over as possible. This guy's going to come right in here. And now we can go with colors. Okay. We can go a bunch of different ways, but I think what I might want to play with, ooh, that is really pretty. Okay, that's a good choice. However, I think I want to go blue. This is Pansy Delta Pro Deep Blue Blotch. So here's the scoop. This looks a little bit dark. However, what I'm gonna do when you're pairing dark things together, if I put it right in the middle, it's gonna get a little bit lost. However, if I put it out here right up next to my, again, my highlighter color, now she pops. What I might do in the middle instead, so see this tiny little bit of baby yellow in the middle of this blue pansy on the right? I'm gonna pop it with some vibrancy with this viola clear yellow. So I'm actually gonna take my clear yellow, and I know that this is going to be, I'm kind of low here just because of how I have this planted. But if I put that yellow in the middle, do you see how it just kind of breaks things up and it brightens it? That's going to be lovely. And in fact, this Ice and Roses, the foliage will stay a little bit lower. And so I might do, gosh, you know what I might do? I might actually take this and put it off the side a little bit because you'll still get that highlighting effect. I might put a blue right in here. And here's the other thing. If I felt like this was too much, this leaf right here, I literally would come in and I would cut it off. I have no problem eliminating a leaf that I feel is in the way of a really good design. So that's something else to keep in mind. If you're like, gosh, this isn't quite fitting, I've got a leaf that's headed right back into a centerpiece, clip it off. This is your container. Do what you want. So here we go. And then what I might also do is if I had space, and depending on where I was looking from, I might put a little pop of yellow right there in the back. So here we are. Container number 4, built for the shade. Friends, final container. I'm going to be using a Nandina for this one as well. Now this is lemon lime. It can handle quite a bit more shade, so you can flex it. But here's what I want you to pay attention to. We are picking out a globe-ish shape, and I want to show a center planting just because I think they are so fun. They are so easy. They're so lovely. It's really about building a trio of complementary shapes, colors, textures. First things first, when we are doing a round what I like to call a round robin. We're gonna center our centerpiece. Now, I typically will go with something low and mounding. On occasion, I will do like an upright boxwood, like a green tower, as long as it doesn't get too tall, because then I feel like the elements start fighting. So this is where we get to have a lot of different fun. Typically, you're gonna wanna choose 3 elements. You'll wanna choose a trailer, a texture, and a color, okay? Now, depending on the diameter of your container, that's where you can start building in some extra fluff. So I wanna walk you through a couple different options. Okay, option kind of number 1. We can go, I'm actually really wanting to use this purple. I think it is so pretty. This is a super beautiful saturated color texture. Now this is competing a little bit here. So if I had something that was bigger, this might be my choice, but I want to show you something else. And here's the scoop. With this container, I like to show some like winter blue tones because I find that that blue iciness is way underrated. If you have a centerpiece that isn't as big, you could also come in here with something really fun like this little festuca, or even, look at this sweet little acorus. That is quite adorable too. It's also gonna say you could come in here with that ceanothus. Now here's why I wouldn't choose this. See how I'm doing really like 3 acid yellows together? That's no good. We want to cool it down just a baby hair. And so this, I feel like, sings my song. So now I need to figure out, gosh, do I like this, or what do I think? Okay, I have another option. Okay, hello cuteness. Do we like that more? Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna plant this out, but you're gonna know that you can come in here with this sweet ajuga, or you can come in here with this festuca, and they both look awesome. Ooh, what do? I think I do this. I do this. I'm gonna do that. Oh, the only reason I wouldn't like that is because that and that. All right, I'm switching my mind. Here we go. Okay, so this is a very, very lovely, sweet little container. If you have this kind of a diameter, this is great. But if we want to kick it up another notch, I think we do have another option. I might bring in this if we want more of that like sweet, creamy white texture. However, I can also bring in this. Now, bringing in a little bit of yellow immediately amps up the vibrancy. And what I do love is that the center of this little ice blotch actually pulls out the purple there. You know what? I like this. I'm gonna give you another reason why this is the choice. I love to pair a pansy or a viola that has multiple colors going on with something that's a more of a simple coloring, because I find that that's a nice balance to create all the way around. So purple, ivy, yellow, blue, purple, ivy, yellow. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is so cute. I am absolutely loving all of this texture. And like I said, if you don't like the festuca, you could go with a senecio. If you don't like the ivy, maybe you pull it out. And maybe this is where something that is more chartreuse makes sense, because now we have the blue of the festuca in there. So a lot of different options for you to play with. But this little creamy white popping with this creamy yellow, I think that's the ticket. Friends, thank you for coming along. I love to have a good play when all of my fresh product arrives. And this is just, man, it's getting those creative juices going. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you in the next one. And in the meantime, as always, go out there and have a good time and say hello to your garden for me.